All right, I don't have to wait for the countdown. I think we can just get going. Hello and good morning. I'm getting started a little bit late actually because I kind of lost track of time. I was working on some notes and things for the slideshow for today. So, here we are, right? So, good morning. This is a live stream intended mainly for students in my DGST 101 class, but anyone else who's watching, welcome. Thanks for watching. If you are a student in this class, this is being recorded and it will be posted on my YouTube channel later. And I will try to put, I forgot to do it for yesterday's video, but I will. And I will put timestamps for the different parts of the different topics that I cover in this video for today. I do have a lot of things I want to cover, so I hope that it's helpful for me to do those. And good morning, Chosen Clown. Good to see you again this morning. Yeah, I think this is working pretty well for me. I mean, this is a good time of day for me to stream, but I have noticed that in the class anyway, students are many more of you are online like later in the afternoon. So this will be my last live stream this week anyway. But looking ahead to next week, I might want to. I want to see what you think about trying a different time. I think the live, like doing it live, is helpful. Like watching it live is helpful if that's possible for you. I hope that the recorded version is pretty good too, but I think live is probably better. So I don't know. I'll see if there's a time that works out for more people and see if that's possible for me to do as well next week. But we'll obviously continue for today with the tradition of streaming at 10 in the morning. So here are some things I want to cover today. Let's see. I did share my slides in Discord just now. I can do that in Twitch as well. Nope, that's the wrong link. Let me try that again. I don't want that link. I want the share link. I think they're both okay, but this one will work better. Okay. So here are some things I want to cover today, and probably a couple more things that I thought of that I didn't have time to put into the outline. I want to talk about how to ask for help, because some of you are asking for help, and I want to make sure that you know how to do that and how to get the best help. And mainly just I want to get across that it's okay to ask for help, and like you should ask for help. So please do. But there's certain things you may not realize about who you can ask help from or how to do that. So a couple of things of advice about that. I also want to circle back on the mimex. The Vannevar Bush essay, As We May Think, and many of you posted some thoughts in Discord about the mimex device. In my notes for yesterday, I gave you a couple of kind of big questions to keep in mind as you read, and I think some of your responses indicate that you're thinking along those lines and you're doing good. There is one really important thing though that no one has picked up on yet, at least if you haven't mentioned it yet. So I want to pull that thing out and make sure that we consider it a little bit about that essay, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. Also, just, since this class is fully online, we're communicating with each other in lots of different ways, but the main two ways that you are communicating back to me is through Discord and through your blog. And so I thought it would be useful at this point in the semester to give you a couple of, I say norms, but I don't want these to feel too restrictive. I just want to give you some suggestions in case you aren't used to either of these modalities of communication that I think might help you make more effective use of those platforms. So I have some suggestions that are pretty specific and hopefully helpful, but not meant to be restrictive. Next, I want to explore digital creativity a little bit with you, because I kind of just gave you the modules and told you to have fun with it, and I think many of you are. I think you're getting started pretty well. Some of you may not have started yet, or you're not sure where to start, but in any case, I think there's so much to the world of digital creative work that it's useful to spend some time looking at and learning a bit more about it, even if you decide not to do that as work for a module. I think just knowing what's out there, I think is fascinating, and it's the world I live in and enjoy. So I hope you will as well. Okay, so then finally, the final slide on this is a checklist of all the things you need to make sure that you've done this week, and this is everything is due tomorrow night, basically. It's due, right? If you are kind of going, doing, some people I know for this online class will try to do most of the work on the weekends because you have a job or something during the week, that's fine. And the checklist is meant to be a kind of a minimalist sense of what are the basic things you need to have done. And for the more detailed explanations and the more nuanced, you can go into Canvas where those descriptions are. Okay, great. So I did publish the notes for today, but I believe I forgot to link it from the homepage. So I'm going to do that before I forget, so that I can add it to our outline. So yeah, here we are. And not that kind of link, this kind of link. Pages, week 1, day 4. There we go. Okay, there we go. So there's the week at a glance, really. You can kind of see what we've done so far. Yeah, I don't know. It might be useful to reflect through all that, but I'm not going to do that now. But it kind of gives you an outline. It kind of gives you a top-down view of everything, and then you can drill down into each individual day by clicking on the title. Okay, so where's my slides? There we are. All right, so let's talk about asking for help. Many of you, again, are doing that, and that's great. I want to encourage everyone to feel like you can ask for help whenever you can about anything you have a question about. Ask early, ask often. That's my first bit of advice there. It's always okay to ask for help. I don't mind being asked for help, or being asked to clarify something, or being asked, this is what I do. I mean, this is totally fine. You never need to apologize for that. And also, Discord is great for synchronous real-time communication, but it also is okay for it to be asynchronous. So in other words, if you send me a message on Discord and I'm not online at the time, I'll be online eventually, and I'll see it eventually and respond to it then. You don't need to apologize for sending me a message late at night. I mean, I turn my notifications off at night if I don't want to see anything. Don't worry about that. So try to use the troubleshooting channel if you can. That's mainly because we're going to be using other channels for other things. So general is going to have a lot of traffic in it, and so your question and then the answer to that question might kind of get lost in that more general channel. So the point of having it in troubleshooting is both that I know why you're posting there, but also other people might see that as well. They might see that you've posted this question and they want to know the answer also, and so they'll find it in troubleshooting more easily. Another thing, I guess I don't have a bullet point for this, but the troubleshooting channel then will become an archive of questions and answers. So if you're having a question, if you have a problem, search in that channel and see if someone's already asked that question, and maybe I've already answered it, or maybe someone else has already answered it. Right? So that's meant to be. It's there. So use that to try to figure out the question yourself first if you can. Just more efficient. Okay, so when you do run into errors like any error messages, something just doesn't work, if you can, take a screenshot of it, or copy and paste an error message if there's something like that. That really helps. If I'm trying to debug something, that really helps me understand what you're doing and what happened. So please do that if you can. Sometimes you can't, because sometimes that's the problem, is the thing that you need to take a screenshot of like doesn't work, and so how do you get it to take a screenshot? But work around that as you can. Oh yeah, you can also schedule a meeting with me. I am available for meetings, and I wanted to show you this. I think I got this done right. Yeah, so I still need to update the actual explanation of my availability, but it's just always, this is why I'm getting away from WordPress actually, because it takes so long to log in. So I'm not logged in here because I ran out of patience with it. But this thing here, this Book Now, this works. So if you go to Book Now, zachwhalen.net/contact, and you click Book Now, you can schedule a meeting with me and different formats. Just pick a time. So I have it set up so these are times when I am available. If I am not available, or if someone has already scheduled a time, it won't be available here for you to click on. So it'll, this is truly when I am available. You can do that that way. You'll notice that it does overlap with the time I've been scheduling for office hours in Discord, like when I'm on there. So those will be kind of happening at the same time, since that usually, so far at least, a few of you have stopped by, and it's great. I always, appreciate hearing and seeing from you all, but I'm not usually busy for that entire time with conversations in the office hours. So I plan on being able to kind of go back and forth between just being in that voice channel and being on a video conference if someone schedules that time. Okay, so that's that. Please feel free to get in touch. I think a lot of times a conversation can be much more efficient as far as helping you sort something out, and also just kind of helping us get to, helping you feel better about what you're doing. I think that often goes better if we're talking. The other thing, I keep forgetting to mention this, and so now I have remembered, which is the Digital Knowledge Center. Please take advantage of the DKC. You can go to dkc.umw.edu, and you can book an appointment with them. They are student consultants who can help you with just about everything you would be running into in this class. So yeah, I highly recommend checking them out. They're just doing virtual. How's Eliza and Callie? Okay, sorry, these are former students. It's a great resource, and everything is virtual for now, but they will be back to doing in-person consultations in the fall. It's a great resource to know about, just because you will be asked to do digital kinds of things in all kinds of classes, and they are there to help support you in doing those things. But mainly, one of the main things that they do that the kind of help you can get from them that you can't get at most other places is help with your domain and WordPress, right? So that is probably a large percentage of the consultations that they do. So if you are having an issue with WordPress, your theme is being weird, or you're not sure how to do something, schedule a consultation with them and they can walk you through it. I can do that as well, but there are more of them than there are of me, and so between those two resources, you should have plenty of opportunity to get some help. So make sure you seek that out, right? All right, so that was the bit about help. All right, I want to talk about the mimex article a little bit, this would be great for a discussion, and since I'm the only one talking right now, this won't be a discussion. But I wanted to just point out at least one aspect of this article that I don't think anyone noticed, or at least if you did, you didn't mention it in there. One of the questions, like the deeper, kind of going deeper questions that I asked in the notes was, first of all, the surfacey kind of question was like, what is the mimex? Like, what is it actually described as? And let me get the illustration again. No, that's not it. I like that illustration, but that's not the main one that I was interested in. Yeah, so you can see it shows up quite a bit on, here's did someone actually build one? Oh, neat. Okay, so these are different pictures of it. This is fine. You can kind of see the structure of it here. You've got 3 different screens and then buttons on the right. You remember, this is way before the era of the personal computer, or even the idea of the personal computer. And so there's a lot of this that is very forward thinking and very kind of, at the time, abstract. Like, it was something that would have been pretty challenging to build, and if not impossible, and so it never was built, at least not at that time. Maybe, I guess people have made replicas of it. But the idea, there are a couple ideas I wanted to make sure you get. One of the main ideas is that the problem that Vannevar Bush is trying to solve with this invention. So every invention should solve a problem, and so when you see something new, you need to ask yourself, like, what problem is this solving? Like, a Roomba, a little vacuum robot, like, what problem does that solve? And is that a problem? And then you kind of just ask yourself, is that a problem that I experience? And if so, then maybe I should get a Roomba. In my case, I don't have a problem sweeping the floor, so I don't need a Roomba. But it doesn't stop. I don't have that problem, so I don't need a solution to that problem. Anyway, the mimex, the problem of the mimex is that the information age. So this is right at the end of World War II, and computers have come along. I mean, we have early analog computers exist, and we have different kinds of things being done, but just the pace and speed of communication in general, not just computation, but communication, is so big at this point, and Vannevar Bush recognizes this as a problem in academia and in other information fields. There's just too much of it out there, and we need a way to get to it. Not just quickly, but a way to organize our approach to that information so that we can actually make sense of it. It's not so much knowing everything, but knowing the important things and knowing how those important things connect to each other. And that idea of connecting those ideas together is what is really driving Vannevar Bush's idea for this mimex. So he calls these things paths. We would think of them as kind of like links, but there is a pretty important difference for his kind of connection where you have one document connected to another document in the mimex. Those two documents have a reciprocal connection. So those two documents essentially know about each other. Whereas on the web, the way links work, it's one direction. You click a link and it goes to another website, and that's it. It doesn't. I mean, you can use your browser to go back, but that destination website has no idea that it has been linked to. So those are, just practically that the way the web is designed and engineered, it works better that way. But this is the idea. So that's the basic idea of how it works. But there's a more subtle, kind of latent assumption in here, because I asked you not just how does it work, but who is it for? And there's an interesting and unfortunate set of assumptions that you might notice if you start looking for this, right? Some of you mentioned this even in your discussion in Discord. The person using this, whenever he describes a user, you may notice that, and I just scrolled to this paragraph randomly, but you notice that it's a man's sleeve within easy reach of his fingers. The scientist of the future moves about the laboratory of the field. Every time he looks at something worthy of the record, he trips the shutter, and every time, and it goes on and on. Every time a person is described using the mimex or this camera device, it's always masculine. Like, it's always a masculine pronoun as the imaginary user of this. I mean, linguistic norms have shifted. We don't usually write this way anymore. We usually either vary the pronouns or don't use pronouns at all if we're describing a hypothetical user. But you might say on the one hand that just sort of the masculine, masculine default gender was kind of just the norm for communication back then. And I think it was, but I think that still has some meaning, and it kind of goes deeper than that, because women do appear in this, and as you can see, what I just found by Control F is women here are not women but girls. So we have a girl stroking its keys, the voter machine, which is actually a real thing, and it is really creepy. Like, the way he describes it as being creepy, it is really creepy. And then he describes a stenograph machine, a girl stroking its keys languidly, and then down here, when he talks about the mimex and how it actually would work when you have to feed different film canisters into it and stuff, he's talking about the girls, a room full of girls armed with simple keyboard punches. So you've got the scientist at this desk doing the real work, the intellectual work, and then you have a room full of girls doing the kind of labor of actually getting this thing working. And there's a gendered division of labor here that you see in his description of this. So again, I think Bush is writing with the linguistic conventions of the day, but at the same time imagining a very specific and specifically gendered kind of future for information technology. Maybe not maliciously, I don't think, but just like that's the apparatus that he's working with here as he thinks about this future. So it's worth thinking about that, because if we try to take a comparison between the mimex and Wikipedia, and I think there is a pretty, a compelling comparison there. I think Wikipedia is all about connections between different bits of information. Information is seen as more valuable if it's more connected to other bits of information within Wikipedia. And similarly, Wikipedia, I saw this statistic recently and it blew my mind. 90% of the editors on Wikipedia are men. That's a lot. Like that's way, that's way more. I mean, I kind of figured it would be slightly more, maybe a majority, but 90%, like holy crap. So that I think gives us pause. Like that should give us pause. That should lead us to ask ourselves how does that impact the information that's there, or does it? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe certain articles you could see how that would be a problem. Maybe other articles it doesn't matter. It's something that because that number is so high, I think it should lead us to ask questions about that number. Like why is it that high, and what is what difference does it make in terms of the content and how people use it? So I don't have answers to that other than we should get more people using Wikipedia. So for one of the modules next week, when we look at digital culture, that is one of the modules is I'm going to invite you to contribute to Wikipedia. And I think the more people contributing to Wikipedia, the better. And I think Wikipedia is a great resource, and I think it works best if you understand how it's built. And I think adding to it is the best way to understand how it's built. So we'll get to that next week. But I just want you to think about these things. Like these are, just because it's technology and it exists and we use it doesn't mean that it's the best it can be, or that it's even good, or that it's just, or that it's fair. I mean, these things are not neutral. So understanding how they've come together helps us understand what lingering elements of oppression or injustice might be baked into the system in ways that are so pervasive that we just take it for granted. And these are questions we should always ask ourselves about any kind of platform. All right, so kind of a rant there, but I hope you got something from that. That's the main thing I wanted you to. The deeper connection that I was hoping you could see in this article is that there's this kind of latent, I almost said misogyny. I would say more chauvinism built into the way that that Vannevar Bush imagines the future, and I think that's unfortunate. But I think it also helps us be aware of and signals us to look for those kinds of things in technology that we see as similar to the mimex. Okay, kind of a mini lecture there, I guess. All right, so let's talk about communication norms. Let's go back to a very different topic. So communication norms, I say norms just to say that these are suggestions for ways that I think you can communicate effectively, most effectively in these different platforms that we're using for class. We're using Discord, obviously. Just a very generic suggestion here. Discord is a very flexible platform. You can do lots of different things. But if you spend much time on Discord and other servers, most of the time people are keeping messages short, snappy, kind of immediate. Like, here's something I just saw, here's something I just thought, as opposed to kind of well thought out multiple paragraph essays. So keep it short, keep it snappy. I'm not looking for deep, long, engaged thoughts. In fact, that's hard to read on Discord. So if you go back through, for example, the As We May Think channel right now, and you kind of just scroll up it's a lot of text, and so it's kind of hard to skim that and get a sense of that conversation. So keep it short, make it a conversation, right? And that's how we talk on these. Certainly use emoji both within your posts, your messages, and in responding to each other's messages. Using an emoji reaction is a great way to show someone that you read their message and that you appreciated it or had some kind of thought about it. There's a whole sort of art to doing emoji, and I imagine you're familiar with it from different chat platforms. But think of Discord, really as a chat room, as a chat platform, like Facebook messaging or whatever else you'd like to use. And emoji becomes an important part of that. Also, if you do want to respond to somebody, use @mentions. I think some of you are doing that already. And you can also do kind of a threaded reply in Discord, where if you hover over a message, there's like a little reply arrow that appears next to it, and you can do that to kind of continue a particular thread of a conversation, which is easier to do if the messages are short, right? So if somebody has a big paragraph where they mention 3 or 4 different topics, you want to reply to one of those topics, it's kind of hard to spell out which topic you want to reply to. But if each of those are individual messages, you could reply to that message that you want to build on, and then kind of keep that thread going, and the others can kind of go, it can just kind of go away if they want. Hope that makes sense. GIFs are good too. Just keep them, PG if you can, as you post them. When you're in Discord, if you type a /, then you will see lots of different Discord commands, and one of them that you'll see is Giphy, like Giphy, and that's a command that will search for animated GIFs, and then you give you options and you can select one and post it. So that's a way to very quickly find and post an animated GIF. Okay, so that's it for Discord. If you're on your blog, this is where if you have multiple paragraphs of things to say, that's a better platform for that, right? So even if it's an assigned reading like the Vannevar Bush thing, if you have a lot to say about it, then your blog is a place to say a lot of things. So I would say some of your Discord messages might have been better off as blog posts just because of how long they were. So just, for future reference, you don't have to change anything, but for future reference, think about the blog being a place where you can post your ideas that get a little bit long. And that's what that's for. Within the blog, you definitely want to use links whenever you can. You want to use images whenever you can, because that's the multimodal capability of having a website. But whatever you want, that's fine. Now, about images, there are some things that we need to cover about images, and this is going to end up being, I think, just a brief lecture here about intellectual property and what you are allowed to do and what you should avoid doing in terms of images. Okay, so we're talking about your blog, and there are a couple of instances where you might use an image. You might have a header, you might do a background image, or you might have an image in the content of a post when you're talking about something. There are some things you should know, and here I'm actually moving not beyond norms. I'm actually really talking about the law. This is copyright law, and there are correct ways to do things and incorrect ways to do things, and incorrect ways to do things are technically illegal. You will probably not experience any consequences of doing these things illegally, but you still should know what you're doing. So let me explain a few things. You may only use an image on your blog if you have permission to use it. So that's, that's the blanket statement, but to kind of dig into what that means, you do have permission if it's an image you created, like a photo you took. You are the copyright holder for that, and you reserve all rights for that, including the right to post it on your blog. So you have the rights to do that. You also have the permission. You also have permission if the person that created the image has given you permission. So someone else takes a picture, they say, hey, you can put this on your blog. Great, you can use it. You have permission. Otherwise, like if you don't have that permission from that person and it's not an image that you took, you do not have permission, and posting it is a violation of their copyright. Okay, so don't do it. Now, there are some ways that you might encounter images, and so I want to talk about a couple scenarios. If you find an image on Google, like you go to Google image search, and you find it there, and you think, oh great, this is an image I want to use, and it's on Google, so it must be free to use, and then you just put it in your blog. That is not the case. Because it appears in Google searches. In fact, if you do a Google image search, you'll see a note now that says, just so you know, this image may be under copyright, and you should assume that it is, right? Unless it says otherwise, unless something says, and I'll show you what are some examples of saying otherwise. If it doesn't say otherwise, it is copyrighted, all rights reserved, and using it on your blog is illegal. Okay, so don't do that. Giving credit to the photographer, like adding a citation saying this is by this person or this is something I found on Google, that does not help at all, right? Well, I guess it helps a little bit, but it is still a copyright violation. All right, so don't do that. Also, writing no copyright infringement intended has no meaning. That does nothing. So don't do that. That doesn't matter what you meant to do. What you actually did is violate copyright law. So don't do that. Okay, so here's something you can do. So fair use. This is I'm not going to go into a full explanation of fair use, but there is a legal concept that does allow you to use copyrighted material in specific situations, and that usually, in your case for this class, that would involve situations of criticism. So like if there's an image, like if you want to write a blog post analyzing a movie, you take a screenshot from that movie and you want to talk about it, that is fair use. I think that's totally fine. It's a very well-established area of copyright. So posting the entire movie on your blog so that people could see it and you can analyze it, that probably wouldn't fly, so don't do that. But the point is that there are some uses that are allowed, and they are pretty familiar kind of things like criticism, satire, parody. If you want to make a parody of something, these are things that are protected usually. I say usually. Fair use is kind of a gray area, but that's the. If you're not sure, you can certainly ask for my opinion, but I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you a legal opinion. But generally, I think people should feel free to exploit fair use. Like it's there for a reason, so use it. The other thing that is going to be much more reliable is something called Creative Commons, and I've got the Creative Commons logo here on the side of the slide. This is a set of licenses where individual creators can say, hey, here's something I made, you can use it, go ahead and use it. So it's a way that they can give everyone in the world permission to use their photography or whatever else. So if you go back to what I was saying earlier, you do have permission if the person that created the image has given you permission. Creative Commons is a way for someone to preemptively give everyone permission to use their images. Right? So let's let me show you a couple examples. So you can find a lot more about Creative Commons at their website, creativecommons.org, and they have different levels of licenses for different situations and for different intentions. So most of my work I will license CC BY, just meaning do whatever you want with it, just give me credit. Like just say, give me credit for, say this is something that Zach Whalen made, and then do whatever else you want with it. Some people like to do CC BY SA, which means share alike. It means, give me credit, but also make sure that you also share your work in a similar way. Also, you can ask that people not use your work for commercial purposes. But CC BY is really the simplest one, or CC 0, which is just don't even, some of my work I will just release as CC 0, meaning just public domain, do whatever you want, I don't care. So that you can find some things on here. You can search for content that has been licensed with Creative Commons. I often find it a little bit easier if I'm looking for like nice stock photos, something that might be a good background image or header image, or really the images like you see in our Canvas course that I'm using as headers in our different pages there. I get them from Unsplash. So unsplash.com is all of these images are free to use. They're free to use, and that's free both in terms of royalties, free in terms of copyright. You don't have to do anything. If you find a nice image here, you can use it. So, excuse me. So let's take a look at, I don't know, Wicker basket. I don't know why that phrase just popped into my head, but here's some images. I don't know. They look okay, I guess. I don't know. There's sort of a vibe here, I think. I don't really like it. Let's look for something else, like waterfall. Okay, so this is a nice one. So if you like this image and you want to use it, you are allowed to use it. And you can see this, the website really kind of cues you for that. You can download it for free. Now, you don't have to give credit to this person, Jonathan Pye, but you can, and you can do that by copying this snippet here that they've given you, and then just pasting that in the blog post where you use this image, or somewhere on your website, maybe the footer. I like to do that just to give them credit, because I appreciate the fact that Jonathan Pye shared it this way, and so I want to give them that my gratitude. So I recommend doing that, but you don't legally have to. You can certainly just use it, right? So that's a good way to do it. There are a couple other websites like this that provide things for free, but make sure they say that this is free. And in fact, these do say over and over again, it's free to use. It looks like Unsplash has its own license, which is not Creative Commons, but very similar to Creative Commons. Yeah, this makes sense that they do have a couple of constraints, but they're not going to affect you. So, yeah, feel free to use it. Unsplash is great. I guess the only bit of advice about Unsplash is that the images are very, very large, like very high resolution in a lot of cases. So if you upload them to your blog, you're going to fill up your space pretty quickly. So when I use an image from Unsplash, I usually will crop and scale it down quite a bit before I post it somewhere, just to make sure that it's not like some of these are like 10 megabytes. Which is crazy. So, they're beautiful, but that's a lot to ask. So, what is this guy doing with these globes? Are those real? Or is that? I don't know. That's kind of strange. Okay. Anyway, so Creative Commons is great. Please use it. All right. So you're also on your blog. You're writing, and I want to help you think through and recognize a particular bad habit of blog writing that I'm starting to see already, and that it always happens, and that's fine, but I wanted to make sure that you're aware of a couple different things. So here's a paragraph. This is I've not written this blog post, but this is a paragraph or two actually from a blog post I might write, and this is actually a true account of what's going on with me this weekend. I'm going to be attending a conference online. Actually, it might start today, come to think of it. But that's the great thing about online conferences. You can kind of just drop in. So this is version 1. So I'll read it out loud just to kind of give you a sense of what's here. This week I had a chance to participate in another online academic conference. This conference format became the de facto norm last year as travel was shut down, but I find that I really enjoy it. This week, the conference is for IDMA, the International Digital Media Arts Association. My paper has to do with a weird video I created that accidentally became something of a meme on YouTube. You can learn more about the conference, the organization, and my presentation with the URLs below. And then I've copied and pasted several URLs that start with HTTP and include a lot of other things in them. Okay, so you might look at this and find it pretty reasonable. Like you could certainly copy and paste these URLs into another tab if you wanted to learn more about them. I guess it's not the worst thing, but it is, I think you'll see, inferior to what I suggest is a much better version of this and a more web-friendly way of writing. So take a look at this. The same information, the same links, but actually less writing, and it's going to work much more cleanly and smoothly here. This week I had a chance to participate in another online academic conference, and this is now a link to the conference website. This conference format became the de facto norm. I find I really enjoy it. This week the conference is for IDMA, and this is a link to the IDMA organization's homepage. My paper has to do with a weird video I created, and here's a link to that video. Right, so you as the reader of this know what to do with these links, and also you know which link is to what because they're anchored in this paragraph in that rhetorical semantic context of these links. Now, you might want to do something like have these open in other tabs. You might need to kind of spend some time figuring out how to add a link in WordPress if you're using WordPress. But I trust you can figure those things out yourself. The main thing is thinking about the writing and make the link part of your writing. Make the link part of something that you would have said anyway, that you would have written anyway. I really recommend this. There's another version you could imagine kind of between version 1 and 2 where instead of like having these here, these are just URLs pasted below, you might say click here to learn more about IDMA or click here to watch the video. I don't like that either. I think it's redundant and we don't need to be told to click on links. We should know what links are by now, right? If you've been on the web, you've seen links before. So you see some text that's a different color and has an underline, and you should know that that's a link and you're going to click on it to see what else there is. So I really recommend that for your writing. Okay, so I've been going pretty fast here for a bit. If I've not seen any questions, but if you do have questions, please ask. As usual, I will try to answer on the stream if I can. Or if you're watching this later, you can certainly just pose the question in Discord. And by the way, I think somebody was asking this about Discord and questions last night. I think it was, Captain with No Crunch on Discord. If you're not sure, general is a fine place to ask questions. Like general is for anything that doesn't already have a channel. Just put it into the general channel. That's what that means. Okay, so let's move on. So I want to, I don't have any slides for this, but I wanted to let you think a little bit about digital creativity. So actually I'm going to go over to our notes for today, the daily stuff, and kind of take a couple of looks at things that I think are kind of interesting. So if we're thinking about the animated GIF, you're probably thinking of like the reaction GIF or the kind of GIF that you would share in a communication context, like send a GIF as part of a text message thread or something. And that's fine, of course, but there are other genres and categories of GIFs. I have one here. This is an example of what you would call a Cinemagraph, or has been called a Cinemagraph. And this is a Tumblr blog, if we don't remember me. And it is, I don't remember who the creator is, but he's done a bunch of these, and they are gorgeous. They take a moment from a film and make it into a kind of a loop, but it's a peaceful, it's a very emotionally situated kind of loop, right? So this is in that moment from Blade Runner where he says the line about tears in the rain, and it's this really emotional scene, and we can kind of live with that moment forever as we watch this loop, and we can kind of experience that. We can also appreciate the cinematography of the original film by looking at it this way. So there's something really, almost magical about these, the way that they create these little moments. And these are perfect, seamless loops, and really just a pleasure to watch. I have tried to make some of these like this, and it's very hard. So there's a lot of craft and skill that goes into making these look the way they do. And this is the kind of thing that if you are doing the animated GIF module, this might be an interesting challenge. You might challenge yourself to try to make one of these. You can find apps that will try to do this automatically, but in my experience with those, the results aren't very good at all. This kind of thing takes a lot of attention to detail, a lot of attention to craft. And one of the constraints one of the aspects of that craft that you don't really see in the finished product is that at the time these were posted, you had very strict constraints on, I think Tumblr has lifted these limits, but at the time, back in 2015, you had, I'm trying to remember, I think it was, a GIF had to be less than, I think it was 1 megabyte at first. I think it's up to 4 now, or it was last time I was trying to do GIFs on Tumblr. But the, there's mimex. Yeah. But there's a lot of work that goes into getting that GIF small enough, having all this kind of beautiful imagery and detail, and yet being less than a megabyte or 2 megabytes, whatever the limit was at the time. And that's a big aspect of the work here. So they're really interesting. You can take these, if you open these in Photoshop, you can kind of take apart their layers and kind of see how it was done, and it's just really beautiful. Anyways, these are examples. So another example, and this is something, I guess I'll show this. Okay, so this is another kind of genre of animated GIF, I suppose. And I don't use my Tumblr very much, as you'll see, but I did for a while wake it up again to share some GIFs that I made. Before I switch to these, I guess I will warn you that these are sort of unusual looking and could be kind of disturbing, but they're more, I don't know, unsettling than disturbing, I guess. I don't know, this is a category of glitch art that is called usually a broken GIF. And so I have found it interesting to make broken GIFs. And so here's an example of one I made. This is the professional wrestler Sid Vicious, and he is reacting with surprise to something. I'm not sure what. But as you can see here, I've manipulated this GIF so that it does some things that it didn't used to do, and it becomes much more, I think, entertaining as a result. There are lots of examples of these that I've done. I think pictures of GIFs of someone yelling or doing something unusual with their face is often pretty good material for a broken GIF. Sometimes this technique is called data moshing. But it's a thing. It's a thing you can do and can have a lot of fun with, I think. I find this one particularly successful. And there's a technique to it. You have to use a couple of different tools. It's not an exact science. There's a bit of experimentation that goes into it. But occasionally I'm really pleased with the results, and this is one that I was really pleased with. I also really like this one of John Ritter, even though the image is quite small. I thought the glitch effects turned out really nicely. So, yeah, these are things that I like to do sometimes. I don't know what he's doing there. Anyway, GIFs, right? Okay, so creative coding. I think a lot of people like to do Twitter bots for this, and I've mentioned a couple different genres of Twitter bots. There are many genres, and so if you're not sure where to start, I put a couple of examples of different genres here. So Tiny Starfield by Everest Pipkin I think is really nice. It just uses Unicode characters to look like different parts of the night sky, and it's very, I think, peaceful and elegant. I think it's a nice addition to your timeline. But you'll see here, actually, because I'm on Twitter, I don't think, am I logged in? Yeah, I am logged in. But you can see it'll suggest other ones that are similar. There are other kind of minimalist art pieces, basically. So this is Tiny Astronaut, who puts themselves inside of the tiny starfields. Or let's see what else we got. Infinite Deserts. Yeah, so this is one that just produces endless desert-like terrain using Unicode characters. This is quite a few like this. Oh yeah, soft landscapes. This is good. This is one that's used. So a lot of these are going to be done using a system called Cheatbots Done Quick, and this particular bot was created by the person who created the service Cheatbots Done Quick, and this is it's by V21, who's the creator. And this one is going to be very complicated to look at the source code because it's generating graphics using SVG, but it's really beautiful, and just, I mean, the results are fantastic. I just really like the way it looks. If you're interested in bots, I have made a tool for making Twitter bots using Google Spreadsheets, and I also have made quite a few Twitter bots myself. I'm not going to make this whole lecture a flex, but I do have quite a few bots that are This is my favorite one. I think this one it creates glitch art every 3 hours out of space imagery. So, check it out. I do have tutorials about how to do glitch art, by the way, on YouTube. If you go to my channel page, you'll see I have a few tutorials. So if this is something you're interested in for the creative coding module, then check out those tutorials on my YouTube channel. I think they're pretty good. All right, so finally, not finally, but for digital audio, I've got a link here to a podcast about poetry. I think it's nice. It's short. Like most episodes are less than 10 minutes, but they give you something to think about and listen to. And I think just a little bit of poetry, little doses of poetry like that can really change your mindset for the day. So I really recommend it. Check that out if you're interested in this kind of thing. And then for interactive fiction, the main thing, I don't know if I should make a link. I should make this a link to the Twine website, following my own advice. But if you go to twinery.org, not only is the software here for you to use and lots of help for using it, but down here you get a random selection of Twine games. And these will vary in quality, but some of them are very good. And this one is a good one. In fact, with Those We Love Alive, it is, I would say, very creepy. So be warned, I guess. But it uses audio. But it's a very good example of what you can do with what's possible with Twine. I think really, like, as you're thinking about your own work, I think the best way to evaluate your own work and decide if it's done or decide if you like it is to look at other work and see what other people have done. I think the thing that a lot of people do with Twine is they think, oh, this is neat, I'm just going to make something. And they don't really spend much time like understanding the genre, the craft, or the prior art, because, I mean, people have been doing interactive fiction in general for at least 50 years, and Twine works for at least the last 10 years or so. And it's there's a lot out there, hundreds, probably thousands of examples out there that are trying different things and learning different things. So check it out. Right. Okay, so let me go. Oh my gosh, Slavoj Žižek makes a Twine game. Sorry, I gotta see this. I have seen this one before, but okay, sorry. Kind of a inside baseball kind of joke about academia. Anyway, so this is what I would like for you to do with these things. So I'm asking you to explore each of these 4 areas of digital creativity. All of you explore all 4 areas. And for each of these, if you notice, I've got a question. So can you find newer examples of things like this animated GIF? Since if we don't remember me, stopped posting in 2015. So is this going on other sites? Like if you go to Giphy.com, is something here similar? Are there newer genres that you think have a similar kind of vibe? Right? Those are questions I have. I'm interested in knowing what's going on. If you find something, share it in Discord. For creative coding, like I just showed you, you can really explore thousands of creative and literary Twitter bots on Twitter. So if you find one then that you think is interesting, then tell us about it in the Discord. Make sure you share a link, anything like this, like either GIF or creative coding kind of examples. Make sure you share links. So share it with us in the general channel so that we can see and learn from different things. For digital audio, do you listen to podcasts? Are you a podcast listener? I have become a podcast listener kind of, over the last year when I found myself needing to take a lot of walks. I found it nice to listen to podcasts. So I'm interested in doing interested in finding out about more podcasts. Lately, I've been listening to, I've been listening to something called the Magnus Archives for a while. It's a horror fiction podcast, and it's pretty good, but every episode is very similar. So I'm kind of like looking for other fiction podcasts. But yeah, as far as like covering digital culture things, Reply All is probably the best podcast, but they've had a rough few months. So they had a new episode that just came out today, and I'm going to listen to it, but I don't know, some odd things going on there. Don't want to get into it now, but it's a good podcast. And then finally, interactive fiction. Like if you find an interesting Twine game, using that thing to explore it on the twinery.org webpage, share it back in Slack. I mean Discord, not Slack, Discord. Share it in Discord. Share a link. Tell us about it. Share a link. Okay, so those are the things. That's kind of your sort of daily activity for today, is to find some of these things. Okay, so is anyone still watching? I've been going on for a while. Good. Okay, 5 people. Great. So I am nearing the end. I do want to talk about your a checklist for the week, so that you kind of know where you're headed. All right. So that you can almost start with this and work backward if you want. So I've got a weekly checklist, and for this, there are actually 3 assignments for the week, and they're all due tomorrow. So these, what I have listed here are those assignments named, and then you can see the elements, the minimal elements that you'll need for that. This is not meant to be the assignment description. This is just to remind you of the things that you definitely need to have, and you need to be able to check all of these boxes. So remember, my grading system is check, check plus, check minus. You need to check all these boxes to get a check as far as the grade for these assignments. So I can talk about these in detail, but I've already talked about them a lot. I think at least the Hello World. In order to complete that Hello World assignment, you will need a domain, you will need a blog, probably WordPress, and then you will need a post on that blog introducing yourself and talking about how you set up your website. So there's a lot that goes into that, actually, especially if this is new to you. You may find that takes a little bit of time. So it's a deceptively simple assignment, right? I mean, it looks simple, but there's a lot kind of behind it. So it may take you a bit of time. If you have questions, if you want help, please ask. If you still haven't registered for your domain, by the way, I'm happy to advise and give you suggestions and feedback on different domain choices, right? I really want you to make sure you make a good choice about the domain, because you only get to do that once. And then whatever you decide, you're stuck with it. So make sure you make a good choice. Make sure you make a thoughtful choice about how you want your identity to be represented to the web. And a lot of that is carried by that name. So make sure you choose a good name. For the digital creativity module, there's quite a bit here. You've got to choose among those 4 different options. Once you made that choice, make an initial blog post talking about why you chose that and what you hope to accomplish and why you think it's important. And then you should be participating in Discord. When you feel like you're done, then record a short video about what you did and share that in the share channel in Discord. And then post a final blog post and submit that in Canvas. Okay, so that's the digital creativity. Finally, a weekly reflection and report. So as far as the genre of thing that you create, whether that's a document, a blog post, a video recording, an audio recording, something else, doesn't matter to me. But what I want you to do with that is use that to summarize what you did. You could even make a list, bulleted list or whatever, but summarize everything you did this week and reflect on what you learned. Okay, so no minimum length for that, no maximum length. Just make it long enough to cover everything you think you need to cover for the week. The other thing, I don't have it mentioned here, but within that reflection reports, you should give yourself a grade, like evaluate yourself for the week. How do you think you did, right? And this is not a real grade. It's just a way to give you an opportunity to reflect on kind of what your areas of improvement might still need to be, and also what you think you've done really well. But mainly use it to talk about the things you've done really well, I would say. Okay, so I believe I'm at the end. And okay, so I just saw a comment on Twitch. Chosen Clown said it's unsettling and cool at the same time. I assume you're talking about my weird GIFs, because yeah, they are unsettling and cool at the same time, I think. But also I think the Cinemagraphs too. I think they're also kind of unsettling, some of them. Yeah, this is my classic one. Possibly I think my most popular in terms of like when I've shared it. So yeah, there you go. You can enjoy that. I don't know who this woman is and what's going on, but I just found this GIF and then I thought this would be interesting to glitch, and then it turned out pretty great. All right, so that's that one. All right, I'm running out of things, so I'm going to be online again this afternoon in my office hours. I'm going to do a little bit of work after I post this to add some timestamps to make it easy to navigate these things and help you find like that checklist. For example, I think this is probably a pretty important thing that I think that everyone would benefit from knowing, kind of at the top. So I'll put this into the notes for today. I will be online, but I might be a little bit later than 1. I'm usually online for office hours 1 to 3, but I'm going out to lunch with my wife because it's our anniversary, so I'm going to do that. But that might make me a little bit late, but I will be online at some point today. And basically anytime you see me online, you'll see the green dot next to me, my name on Discord. That means I'm ready for your questions. So feel free to send me a DM or at me in Discord, and I can respond pretty quickly usually. But if you see me connected to the voice channel in office hours, definitely you can drop in and say hi. Even if it's just to say hi, you know, it's always nice to know that people are out there. And again, you can, as I said earlier, you can book an appointment with me if you'd like. You can go to my website, which I need to update slightly. And, oh yeah, here's my conference. Is it 24th? I need to figure out. I need to put the schedule for the conference on my calendar so I don't forget it or miss anything. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap things up for today. I think this is where we need to be. Let me I'll cue up my outro scene just to kind of wrap things up here, and I'm trying to. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I kind of moved pretty quickly as usual on this video, but you know, because it's being recorded, I hope that's okay. If you need to isolate a particular part of it and watch it again, then that's the intention there, and then I'll add the timestamps to make that easier. Okay, everyone. Well, I will pull up the music and do the crossfade to the outro scene. So thanks for watching. I will see you next week on the live stream. This is my last live stream of the week. Tomorrow will be, I'll send a few notes and messages and reminders tomorrow, but it will not be a full day of class like today is, like with a live stream. Okay, so that's all. See you later. Have a good day and a good weekend. Bye.